Hello, everybody. I do hope you're keeping well. Welcome to Dental Jobs Diaries, episode 8. I'm delighted to have Jim Hall here today, CEO and founder of Clyde Munro Dental Group. Jim, thanks so much for coming on the show today. How are things?
That's great, thank you. Absolutely delighted to be able to talk to you today. Everything's going well. So got lots I can share around Clyde Munro. One of my favourite subjects, in fact. So, yeah.
It's going to be fantastic to hear the journey and get into the exciting things that have happened this year. So, Jim, what has been the driving force behind Clyde Munro's rapid expansion?
Yeah, so started to think about a dental group in Scotland in 2014. And basically, I had done some work and invested in a number of businesses alongside a guy called Professor Raman Bedi, who was the Chief Dental Officer for England. He suggested that him and I looked at creating a dental group founded in Scotland and focused on the Scottish people and the communities around Scotland, because there were at that time in 2014 primarily big groups that had started in England and had the majority of the practices in England. And given the fact that we had a different system in Scotland and given the diversity of the communities around Scotland, then we felt there was a real opportunity to get a new business where we really focused on the needs of the communities that are based in all over Scotland, and do that through having a team that's based in Scotland and understood the different communities, but also understood the NHS systems and how things worked in Scotland. And that was the kind of start of it all. And in terms of the rapid expansion, what we found was that model and the way that we approached and worked with the different communities we served really worked well. And the feedback we got from patients, the feedback we got from the staff and the practices was extremely positive in the fact that we allowed them to focus on their community. We allowed them to actually make decisions that were right for their communities, because it's very different running and working with a team in the Orkney Islands than it is even working with a team in Edinburgh, never mind a team that's based out of London or based out of Birmingham. So, it's important. Our whole philosophy has been, we listen to the local teams, we listen to what the local communities need, and we provide that service. And what we found was that really worked. And that really was the driving force to say, look, there's a clear need for what we do. And there is a clear benefit to the people and the patients and the people in the company. And, if we can do this with 7 or 8 practices, we can do it with 80 practices and more. So that was the real driving force. It was the fact that we had a model that was actually working for the people within the business. And most importantly, it was working for the communities we serve. Because we look after over 600,000 people in Scotland. Now, that's around about 12% of the population, so it's a big responsibility. So you've got to make sure that whatever you're doing is the right thing for these people. It's the right thing for where they live, work, and, come to the local dental practice that's part of that community.
Did you believe, you would be 80 locations serving over 600,000 patients today from when you first started? I mean, it's got to have been such a phenomenal journey that you've been on.
Yeah, it's been an incredible journey, and especially given my age, because I'm no spring chicken, as they say. And I had a successful career, and a career in Polaroid. For people that don't know, did the lens and picture. So I always say I've been in the smiles business, for all my life, So whether that be in the photography and now in dentistry. But yeah, no, I didn't. I never really thought about being so big. I mean, I remember when we first started, we thought, well, man, we'll maybe get 5 practices and see how we get on. And here we are today. And sometimes you've got to pinch yourself and say, my goodness, in a relatively short space of time, we bought our first practices in November 2015, and that's not that long ago, really. And I never ever, thought to my wildest dreams that we would be, across so many different parts of Scotland, have so many wonderful people as part of the organisation, and have such a close link to the communities across Scotland. And it's been an amazing journey to be on, and a very privileged to be able to do that, frankly. Particularly at my stage in my career, I feel really privileged that I've been able to have this experience. And we're not stopping yet. I can tell you that right now. We're not stopping it yet at 80. We're going to keep going as long as this business works, and as long as the values that we have and how we run the business, we can keep them, those values at the forefront, how we do things. As we get bigger, then we're going to keep going. But it's been a wonderful experience, and I'm very proud of the fact that it's not just all about the number of practices you've got. It's how the business works together, how the people work together, and how we work together to provide a great service for people all over Scotland. I mean, 12% of the population. It's interesting. Anytime you meet someone, I always ask, well, where's your dentist? The number of times it's Clyde Munro is amazing, no matter what you're doing, So whether you get your car fixed, or whether you're going to visit the doctor, or whether you're in a hotel somewhere, or whether you're, at one point I was, up travelling north, and I went to a mobile banking service, and the guy driving the banking van way up in the Highlands was a patient of ours. It's just wonderful experience. And every time you get that feedback about the company and the people in the company. So, I think it's a fantastic position that we're in, and a position that we can continue to grow and develop this fantastic business.
I mean, the growth that you guys have shown has been incredible, and we can see that from the many podcasts that we've done already with some of your team members, which is fantastic. I mean, look, Clyde Munro Dental Group is the name in the Scottish dentistry. What do you believe that sets you guys apart from the rest, and what opportunities offer other dental professionals wishing to consider a career with you guys, Jim?
Yeah, I think the things that set us apart are the people that we have in this business, and how, as a team, we work together. And we work together to support our patients, who are at the forefront of everything we do. And I think the values that we have in terms of the business, and the importance of those values, the fact that we uphold those values, is really important. We support each other, and we do what's right for the communities that we serve. Now, we're not perfect, but for the most part, we've got a common set of values in Clyde Munro that we all work hard to follow, and that's vitally important, particularly in a healthcare business. Important in any business, frankly, but particularly in healthcare. So that's a key differentiator that we have, and I think empowering the practice teams to do what's right for the communities they're in is vitally important and differentiates us. We don't try and do everything the same way across Scotland, never mind across the UK, because, as I've said before, every community has different needs. So if you're running a practice in Oban where 30% of your patients come in the ferries from the islands to your practice, how you engage and support and provide for their healthcare needs is very different from the practice that we have, in Heriot-Watt University, for example, in the campus. So you've got to make sure you do what's right for your patient base that you support, and you've got to listen to your practice teams, and you've got to empower the practice teams to run the practice the way that works for the communities they serve, and and let them do that. And that means that they may do things differently in different parts of the country, but as long as those are the right things, then that's fine. And I think that's been a key part of what we've been about. The other thing that differentiates us is our focus on making sure that our dentists and our practice teams get access to the latest technology to support the patients, because technology is rapidly changing and is rapidly being used in dentistry. And one of the things that we decided early on in the growth of the company, when we looked at what we felt Clyde Munro could be going forward, was to be the leader in the application of new technology. Not new gadgets, not things that come and go, but actually, technology that will be embedded in how we do things both now and going forward. And making sure that it's not just one or two big private practices that get access to that technology, but that technology is accessed by everybody that we serve. And that has been a major driver, and there's one particular area that sets us apart. So I think our people, our values, the values that we have in terms of, looking after our patients and looking after the needs of different communities, coupled with that application of the very latest technology, I think is really important. I think the other one is learning and development opportunities for everyone at Clyde Munro. One of the things that really surprised me when I came into dentistry was the kind of lack of career planning for dental teams. And that you can understand, because if you're working in an independent practice, you're really only focused in one town, one owner who's got 3 or 4 dentists, and you're kind of got to make your own career development. And there's nobody there to really be able to help you, apart from the 1 or 2 people you work with. So one of the things that I was determined to do was to bring the advantage that we have as a scale of a large group, to provide that an advantage to our dentists and to our practice teams and to any support team, that they can develop their career within that framework. So to be able to sit down, for example, and talk to our dentists and talk to our dentists who are just coming through their training, their VT year, their vocational training year, and actually sit down and have a conversation around, well, where do you want to see your career developing? What kind of skills do you want to learn? Where do you want to work? What kind of team do you want to be part of? What kind of area of focus do you want to have in terms of your career right at the very early stages is vitally important, because we've got the resources, we've got the capability, we've got the technology to be able to provide whatever they want, really. And it's just a case of making sure that we have those conversations and that I have the right people to mentor and support people through their career development. And that is a major focus of this company and will continue to be. And it's the one area where I feel that we can make the biggest difference in terms of, people's careers within Clyde Munro and to patient care, having motivated dentists that are able to be all they can be and get the support to do that, I think, for me, is vitally important.
So for viewers on today's show, Jim, you guys opened up your own training facility
we did
earlier this year.
Yeah.
How did that come around? And
well, so there's no point in having new technology if you don't train people how to use it.
Yep.
There's no point of talking about career development if you don't provide the training and support to actually allow the individual to be what they want to be. So we really thought long and hard about, well, what kind of learning and development centre do we need so that we can provide whatever opportunity a team member, whether it be a dentist or a nurse or a support team member has, and we can provide them with the ability to have that training and development in Scotland. And also, if we're going to have this major push and rolling out the world of digital dentistry, the pace that that's moving at means you have to constantly look at training and development for our teams to keep pace with that. Otherwise, you'll not get the best from the technology that's available. So we thought, right, how do we do that? And when we looked at what facilities there were in Scotland, apart from the dental schools, there wasn't really anything that would allow us to do what we wanted to do. We would need to have transported people down to England, to London and the Midlands, whatever else. And I thought, right, well, what we really need is our own centre. And we need the right level of equipment there in order for us to do that training. So one of our key partners is Dentsply Sirona, and they're a partner that is really advanced in a number of areas of digital dentistry. So we approached them to say, look, we need your help. We need to be able to set up a capability in Scotland so that we can continue to get all of our teams across the length and breadth of Scotland trained to be able to utilise, what's available. And that was the driving force. So I then had the opportunity in Perth, which is right in the middle of Scotland. If you put a pin in the middle of Scotland, you're pretty much in Perth. I had some space, quite a significant amount of space there that we were able to access right next to one of our advanced practices. And we thought, right, this is a great opportunity to have Perth as the new training school. It was a huge investment. It was over about £1.5 million investment in that training school. We've all of the latest equipment there. We've got 9 phantom heads. Just to give you a sense of what that means, the biggest dental school in Scotland's got about 40. We've got 9. So, it's a big facility with real equipment that people can utilise. So it has everything that we need to make sure that we can provide the right training for our dentists. And we've got a great engagement with the individuals and the experts that we need in a number of different fields to support our training programs. And we're busy working on different curriculums as we get more and more feedback for example, the career development discussions that we have with our dentists when they join Clyde Munro to say, well, what kind of training do you need? So that we can fold that into the curriculum development that we're having for the new dental school. So a vital part of what we need, because I remember maybe about 6 years ago when we were starting to bring in digital scanners, I used to go into some practices and they were in the cupboard. They were literally in the cupboard because nobody had actually thought through, right, actually, there's no point in just buying a scanner and sticking it in a practice. You've got to train people to use it. You've got to work with them. New technology, change, you've got to manage that. And you've got to really work hard together to apply it and make sure it becomes part of how you do things rather than just a new toy. And I think that's the key thing. For me, it's all about embedding this technology in how we do things at Clyde Munro. And that's a big part of what we're doing.
It's endearing to hear that, the amount of support that's provided to your teams in the best job possible. For me, it's a case of what you've invested as well for the future. So for new people coming in wanting to train and practice dentistry, and it's exceptional. It really is what you guys are doing and what you guys are continuing to do as well. For dental professionals considering joining Clyde Munro, what would you say the unique opportunities are and the advantages from both a dentist, but also somebody wishing to go into management or like a team leader role?
Yeah. So, I think the advantages you have joining Clyde Munro is access to whatever you want to be, you can be, and access to the support to allow you to do that. We have got the equipment, the investment in new technology. We've got the investment in training and development to utilise that new technology. We've got practices across the length and breadth of Scotland. So wherever you want to work, and that might change over time. If you, it's very different when you come out of dental school and want your first job. Where do you want that to be? If you're into the outdoors, then maybe it's Fort William or Oban, or Orkney. If you want a city centre and live in the city centre, then maybe that's the case. When you then develop and you've got a family, you maybe want somewhere a bit different, where, it suits you to bring up your family. Again, you've got that opportunity and you don't need to leave the group. We've got that opportunity within the group to go and be wherever you want to be. I mean, I'll give you an example. I went into one of our practices right in the heart of Glasgow, and I met one of the nurses who had actually, and I thought, I've met you before. She said, yeah, I was in Oban, but I met a chap from Glasgow, and I've now moved to Glasgow, and it was great because I could then just move into one of the Clyde Munro practices here and still be part of the team. And she said that it's been a fantastic opportunity, and that's a wee example. So as far as where you want to work, absolutely, we can make that happen for you. But I think one of the most important things, back to this career development, anybody that joins Clyde Munro, we have a conversation. What do you want to do? Where do you want to be with your career? And we've got a clinical team there to support and mentor. We've got the training facilities, with access to all the new equipment. And that is something that you will not get in most groups, or certainly not within independent practice, where it would be incredibly difficult for any independent owner to be able to provide that level of opportunity. And I think that's vitally important. I mean, to give you an example of that, artificial intelligence, we've all been hearing about what that's going to mean. And everybody tends to think, yeah, that's going to come at some point in the future. We're doing it now, right? And it's not just our top super heavyweight dentists that are doing this. Our VTs, that's final year students in their last year doing their vocational training with Clyde Munro, have all got access to artificial intelligence technology. Hello, Peril, because it's really, we're using it there as a support tool for them as they learn and develop. And that's an amazing opportunity. You're not going to get that anywhere else in the UK. We're one of the first to adopt artificial intelligence. Funnily enough, about 2 weeks ago, we had all the trainees together, and I had the team over from Hello Peril, based in San Francisco, over actually talking to the VTs about what the world's going to be like with artificial intelligence. Again, that's a huge opportunity to be able to be part of that journey and to get access to that type of technology as a dentist is quite unique. And I think the other thing is to be part of a team where we care for each other, we look after each other. And that's important in dentistry, because a lot of what you do in dentistry depends on the team, depends on the nurses supporting the dentists, who then work with the patients. It depends on all the support teams, make sure the practice has what it needs to be able to operate effectively. And as we've got some scale, we can invest on the best possible equipment, the best possible training. We can develop really strong relationships with our suppliers, because, quite frankly, we've got huge influence over that relationship, given the size of the business we are. And that really supports and helps the team do a great job and to develop personally within the business. And it's quite interesting because in the last couple of weeks, we've had 4 dentists who had decided, for whatever reason, to dip their toe outside Clyde Munro, and they now want to come back, because there is nothing like the company that we have in terms of how we work together, how we operate, our values, our technology. And I absolutely delighted to get that feedback. And sometimes some people think, well, okay, I might have to try and see what it's like. But to have, just in the last 2 weeks, 4 come back to us and say, you know what, can I come back? Because actually, you've got a fantastic business here, and I just want to be part of it again, So that is a fantastic example of the kind of opportunities we provide. And I think also when it comes to working with our VTs, I mean, we always hold on to the majority of our vocational trainees, and so we should, because we put a lot of effort in to make sure we understand what they're needing and what they're looking for, and that's what people want, So there's no question about it that I believe we provide unique opportunities for nurses, for dentists, for support teams, and we try our very best to do what we say we're going to do, and deliver a great patient care program.
At the beginning of this podcast, Jim, you said not stopping at 80. So what does the future hold for you guys? What's the roadmap looking like in 2024?
Well, so if you look at 2024, so last year, if we look back into 2022, we acquired a lot of new practices. In fact, for 1 month, we brought 6 new practices into the group. Now, to be able to integrate and have those practices operate at the values we have, with the technology we have, takes a lot of time and effort. So a combination of last year buying 23 practices and a combination of the kind of shift in the financial market with the high interest rates, we decided this year to say, look, what we're going to do is focus on our 80 practices. So many things we wanted to do, particularly around digital and getting that technology embedded, particularly around making sure we engage with everybody in the teams to understand what they need in their training and development. So this year's been a great year for that super focus on the 80 practices we have. Next year, we'll be starting to add new practices to the group again. And and I'll keep doing that as long as we're able to maintain the values that we have, and as long as we're able to keep that empowerment there. What I don't want to do is turn into a corporate. And as soon as if I turn into a corporate, that's when time to stop. And I have what I call as my watcher sitting on my shoulder to say, are we becoming a corporate? Are we getting to the stage where people can't make decisions? Are we getting to the stage where there's half a dozen layers of decision making? And that I watch out for that continuously, because that's not what we're trying to be at Clyde Munro. We're trying to have the advantage of being a big group, and every advantage that brings in terms of what we can invest in the services and support and training that we can provide, and the difference we can make, without getting bogged down in corporate dentistry, where you've got this giant grey sponge that soaks up everybody's innovation and decision making. So none of that. As long as I can keep going the way that we have done, and we can continue to grow the business with those values and how we do things, then I'll keep going.
It's just endearing to hear that you guys are so focused on what you want to be and not what you want to turn into, which is fantastic. And again, a lot of companies, Jim, do lose sight of that, and your communication is pivotal within the group's success, within the company's success. Unbelievable to listen and hear your passion as well. That comes across brilliantly, which is great. And I think anybody that's going to be wishing to, start a career within the industry will be listening to this podcast, and will most certainly, look at you guys as a career for sure, with all the investment that you put in. Now, lastly but not least, obviously I've done my research, Jim. Of course I would do, but you love Land Rovers, so I've been reading up on that. So give us some to the people listening today for your love of Land Rovers.
Well, absolutely. So Land Rovers and grandchildren, that's where I spend most of my the time that I have. I do like, and because it's something I've had a number of old Land Rovers, all of which leak, by the way, but that's another story. But you've got to get used to get your feet wet, both inside and outside a Land Rover. But and it's been something I've been able to do with my 2 boys, basically, and that's when I got it at first instance. In fact, my 2 boys and my dad, actually, and we used to go away in the off-road trips and camping in the Land Rover and sleeping in the Land Rover, with our tents outside and all this kind of stuff, and some great fun. So it's something I've been able to do with the family, and it's something I've always quite enjoyed, and it allows you to explore the great outdoors of Scotland as well, which is always good fun. But that's good. But now my time spent, I've got 4 grandchildren, so I'm having some great fun with them, and being able to spend time with them is just precious, frankly, So especially since the 4 of them were all under 5, so it's very busy when you're with them. But for me, that's what life's all about, is your family and being able to do things together, So, and the two go hand in hand. Land Rovers and family go hand in hand. For me, anyway, they do. So, it's things we can do together. But yeah, but when I do get time, but it's important for me to get to make sure that you get a bit of balance as well. Although my wife wouldn't agree with that if you asked her about my idea of what life balance is. But anyway, that's a different story.
Yeah, I became a dad just over 4 years ago, and I've always worked hard, but now it's as we know, it's Christmas. It's one of my most favorite times of the year, and my daughter, is beginning to understand things. So I'm trying to find that work-life balance. Which is
actually, when they're under 4 like that, it's just trying to get through life sometimes, isn't it?
I agree. The early mornings, I get it. But Jim, CEO and founder of Clyde Munro, it's been an absolute privilege to hear and have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic for all the listeners and people considering joining the firm that you founded. So, good. Congratulations and thanks so much for coming on the show.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. Good. Thanks, Liz.